All right, so I had a treat today, more like a rest day, because I just did so much like yesterday. So I was like, I felt sore all over, especially in my lower body. So I just did 5 sets push-ups, 5 sets pull-ups, and then followed that up with like 3 rounds of shadow boxing. I don't have the third round recorded, but I just had the two following after that. And since I'm kind of treating today more of like a rest day, I'm not going like crazy or anything. I'm just kind of like practicing just like some lines. I say lines, but just practicing some like follow throughs and whatnot, and just trying to kind of like just stick to bread and butter basic movements. But kind of what has been on my mind a little bit is when it comes to ways of eating, I'd say specifically fruitarianism or at least like raw veganism. Now I'm not like vegan, I'm not even vegetarian. But in terms of my diet, I do mostly eat like fruits and eggs. Just mostly because it's like, those are just pretty easily accessible. I just can put eggs on the pan and fry them, or I can just, eat a fruit as is. And it just kind of makes me think like, from all the stuff that I've heard about fruitarianism or raw veganism, which are two different things, but like, they're kind of relate in my mind in a way. So it's just kind of like a lot of the things that they explain is like in nature, right? When you look at fruit, right, these are things that are very aesthetically pleasing to look at. They show themselves bare to the earth, so that means they grow in bushes or they grow in trees, and when they do grow, they come down low to the ground, or hell, they even fall off of the bush, or they fall off of the tree, making it very easily accessible to human beings. So in my mind, I think this is the truth. In my mind, fruit is probably like the number one thing human beings should be eating. At least they should be eating most of the time. In terms of like our diet and whatnot. Now people will say like how do you get protein, things like that. How are you gonna get your protein? Now you could possibly supplement it, but then there are stuff like pea proteins, which is like like a vegan protein, made from like plant based stuff like that. So it's like, oh, how am I going to get my protein? How am I going to build muscle from getting my protein? Then, maybe that's the case, right? And a lot of people equate size with eating certain foods. Like they equate size with eating chicken, beef, lamb, stuff like that, even pork maybe. And if those foods harm your bodies and you're kind of sacrificing your health for size and strength, then it's like, what's the point of you exercising to become a healthier person if you're sacrificing those things at the same time? Now, I'm not saying everybody who eats meat is willingly poisoning themselves, because I technically eat meat, but it's like, do I really know that I'm poisoning myself? I can't say for certain because I've been eating it my whole life. Pause. And it's just like I would be used to it. My digestion system is used to it, things like that. And another thing you can mention is like, oh well, we have canines, right? We have sharp teeth, so we're supposed to be eating meat, which allows us to chew and bite into it. But another thing to point out is that most animals who eat meat, they have the physical abilities and physical capabilities, just within their own bodily autonomy, to eat meat. So it's like they have claws, they crawl on four legs so they can run fast speeds to catch up with the animals that they hunt. And they have the ability to eat these animals raw, right? Now, some people do eat meat raw, without cooking it, but most of the time it's not great for us. We have to cook it to kill certain bacteria and viruses that are within the animal. So we have to we have to eat it cooked. And we have to eat it with like utensils sometimes, right? We're not always going to eat like certain meat foods with our bare hands. Unlike fruit, we can eat fruit and some vegetables with our bare hands. And another thing to mention is like, now when like how I mentioned how fruits naturally look appetizing. So with a fruit, right, or with meat actually, when you're looking at it raw, when you're looking at a raw chicken leg or a whole chicken, maybe some people find it appetizing to look at, but me personally, like I don't find like just looking at raw meat in the frozen aisle or whatever to be super appetizing looking. Like, I'm not licking my lips and drooling like, oh, delicious, delicate raw meat. Like, that's not how I'm looking at meat when I'm in the store. I'm just kind of like, okay, I can make something out of this. But with fruit, you can look at it and like, this looks delicious, and you can eat it as is right then and there without having to prepare it or cook it a certain way, unless you specifically want to do that, like you want to make banana pudding or something like that. But you can just 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 eat a banana as is without having to go through any extra preparations, right? Maybe you want to eat it when it's ripe, like, maybe you buy it when it's not ripe, but that's about it. You just wait a couple days, or you wait a day or two, and then boom, now you can eat your avocado, now you can eat your banana. With meat, that doesn't happen. You know, of course, it's pink or red, and sometimes they have blood, the actual blood of the animal still within the meat. So you have to cook it and prepare it all these certain ways for it to be safe to consume, right? But in nature, this does not exist for animals that already eat meat. Like, you don't see a lion start cooking up like a bonfire and start putting his, the pig that he just hunted down on a roast, or the zebra or the gazelle that he just hunted down on a roast, and like turning it over and bleeding it out to make sure all the blood is gone. Like, animals, like, carnivorous animals, don't have to do that. And then a lot of the large animals, so I'll just name two, so like gorillas, or I'll name three: gorillas, giraffes, elephants. Their diet consists mostly of, like, plant-based diets. Right now, they might eat like ants and bugs and stuff like that, but most of the time they eat plant-based stuff. They eat fruits, they eat herbs, stuff like that, leaves, whatever, tree bark even. Gorillas and elephants are known to be some of the strongest animals that exist on the world currently. And they only eat, like, or most of the time, they just eat, what I just stated. And it's like, if all these signs are kind of pointing towards, like, fruit, or at least veganism possibly being like the best for the human health, then I might just try and, like, try it again. I remember back in middle school, I went vegan for, like, I think 3 months or something like that. I can't remember exactly how long, but I don't think I did it the right way. I was still eating like processed foods, I was still eating like these like replacement meats or whatever, or like what they call it, like impossible meats and stuff like that from like Burger King and whatnot, and that could not have been good for my health, obviously. Still eating like fried foods, stuff like that. So it's like, sure, I might have been vegan, quote unquote, but like, how, what was I still putting into my body? I still wasn't conscious of what I was putting into my body. So yeah, it's like, maybe down the line, I might try fruitarianism, or raw veganism, or just veganism in general. Because it's like, you kind of have to think of nature. So if you believe in God, or a God, or some type of deity, and you believe that that deity created everything in this world to be perfect and to align with one another, and if we exist in nature, and we exist wholly, completely in nature without using any, like, relatively without using any outside resources besides human resources that come from the human body, then it would make sense that something so easily accessible and attainable and grows naturally without us having to plant it per se, just by going to those right environments where we have access to these rich foods that grow seasonally and over the year, then it's like, it makes sense that maybe we are just supposed to eat fruit mostly, at least, right? And maybe eating some meat here and there. And like, one thing too is like, our canines, right? Our sharp teeth, we didn't start developing those until humans started developing tools to kill these animals. And tools, technically, they are not natural to the human body. We don't just have daggers and spears coming out from like our arms. So in a way, just through human brain power, we've kind of made, or we've manufactured these tools from resources, from natural resources outside of the human body to mimic what it would be like to be those animals that are naturally born to kill other animals, right? And then things like energy, you have to think of that. I don't look at things on a purely quote unquote scientific basis. I kind of think of it as spiritually, and I think kind of spiritually or spirituality and science kind of correlate with one another, because that's what science derives from. It derives from the world, from the physical world and the spiritual world, and how those things interact with each other. At least that's what I believe in. And when it comes to eating animals and kind of gaining the life energy or the life force of those animals, whether it be through protein, right? So you're getting strength and muscle recovery and whatnot from eating protein, and even consuming creatine through these animal resources. But you're also consuming the life energy that they had in moments of death, right? So if this animal was fighting for its life, running away, becoming exhausted and tired from being chased down from these humans, or they were kind of in a farm and they were in these horrible conditions where they were fed horrible food. They were, in these tight, small, compact spaces, and then they were slaughtered, in like on like a conveyor belt with hundreds of other animals. Then it's like, okay, and now you're eating that, you're putting that into your body, right? Now, some people might joke like, bro, that shit was good though. That was good though. That shit was good though. Like, people will joke like that, but it's like at the same time, like, you get in what you put out, right? And fruits are something that are grown again from the earth, from the resources of the earth, from the sun, from the energy of the sun, the energy of of soils and things like that. And then you're putting that into your body. It's like pure energy from the earth, right? Same thing with vegetables. You're putting that into your body, and what are you going to get out, right? What exactly are you going to get out versus an animal that has been hunted and chased down and is exhausted and knows that impending doom is going to come upon it, right? Because again, animals are conscious. They don't just live like these autonomous lives. We are also animals. We are conscious of our own mortality, or we can become conscious of our own mortality. So it's like, those are just things to think of, right? Now, me personally, like, I really like eggs. There's one animal byproduct I'd like to eat, it's eggs, but like if down the line, not right now, I'm not gonna try veganism or fruitarianism right now, because like that's gonna require a good amount of resources called money, to eat those things on a constant basis. But like, maybe in my lifetime, I'll try and experience, or experiment with my body just to see how I respond to certain foods or certain diets. If you have any questions or even experience with like raw veganism and fruitarianism, please put it down in the comments. I'd like to get your feedback and like your own thoughts and whatnot. But yeah, peace out. See you in the next video.